Hello and welcome to this Stardust webinar on the topic of electric mobility in Trento, Italy. So this is a webinar that's part of a series of webinars held by the Stardust project as it reaches the final months. So for those who may not know, Stardust is an EU-funded smart cities project that began in 2017, and it will be finishing in March of next year. And so these webinars cover the sort of four main focus areas of the project, which are mobility, which is the case today, ICT, which is also the case today, smart buildings and districts, and energy. So I'm pleased to welcome two speakers from the project today. So we're with Aliona Zubareva from URAC Research, based in Trento, and Alex Tomasi from the municipality of Trento. So welcome to you both, and thanks for agreeing to share your insights this morning. So Aliona, you hold a PhD in environmental studies and a master's in environmental resources management, and you have over 15 years of experience in the field of sustainable transport and electric mobility technologies. And today you'll be speaking about the approach taken to planning the public charging infrastructure to support electric mobility in Trento. And Alex, you're a project manager at the Innovation and Digital Transition Department at the Municipality of Trento. You coordinate various Stardust activities for the municipality, and you hold a master's degree in computer science with a specialization in software technologies. And today you'll be speaking about electric mobility in Trento, the corporate electric vehicle fleet, and the pilot introduction of electric buses in the cities. I hope I've got everything right there. So what we'll do is I'll give the floor to you first, Aliona, and then Alex, you'll come in afterwards, and we'll have a question and answer session at the end. Okay, and you can use the chat if any questions come to mind. You can use the chat to ask your questions, but we'll deal with them at the end. Okay, that's it for now. So I think I can pass the floor to you, Aliona. I'll just make you the presenter.
Right.
Okay, you should be the presenter now.
Now I can do that. Can you see my screen well?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so let me somehow put this done, and then start my presentation. So welcome everybody to this webinar. I'm very happy to be able to present this work that has been performed within this project Stardust, and within which we as a URAC research, as well, applied research organization, supported the municipality of Trento in developing a planning tool and supporting them in planning of the charging infrastructure for the city. And I will be presenting the approach that has been used for the last years in this case, and then Alex Tomasi will dwell more into detail on how the municipality then actually implemented the infrastructure. So just a couple of words regarding the why we actually would need really to accelerate in the development of such infrastructures at the city and regional level, as there are several countries that have already announced the bans for the sales for conventional vehicles, as we see on the graphs here, and also that there is a steady development of the electric vehicle infrastructure at the city level in many European cities, and the types of infrastructure that range from few kilowatts to really hyper fast charging infrastructure that has been already also developed in Italy as well. And in terms of numbers, Italy, among other European countries, show the highest numbers, and there is a continuous and rapid growth in the last years. And that also puts pressure on small and medium cities in Italy to follow this trend and to develop fast, hopefully, and efficient and capillary electric vehicle infrastructure to support the growth of electric vehicle fleet. Well, obviously, there are certain steps to follow, which many cities follow, and we did this also for the city of Trento. That first, we needed to understand what is the mobility demand in the city, what are the primary usage for the vehicles. Then we can increase the modal shift from private passenger cars to bikes, public transport in terms of taxis, and also vans. And then if that's already done, then to decarbonize as much as possible the fleets that remain through introduction of electric vehicles and supporting charging infrastructure. So there are certain steps that need to be taken in order to develop an efficient charging infrastructure at the city level. So first we need to understand where should we place such infrastructure, how much and how many charging points do we need, what kind of them. And in this case, for the city of Trento, we have done a very detailed analysis of different scenarios of how the electric vehicle fleet can look like at the city level. In this case, there are 4 scenarios considered, and the 2 scenarios that foresee a very fast development of the electric vehicle infrastructure in the city, that's called text scenario. It would foresee that in 2050 it would see almost 50% of the whole vehicle fleet to be electric. This is also the result that is described, I think, in the publicly available deliverable that will be available on the website through after the end of the project. Then, in order to support this high level of development of electric vehicles in the city, we place the questions on, so which is the infrastructure that we need and how it should look like, also distributed geographically at the city level. There, first, again, in 4 different scenarios, we tried to understand how many charging points what we would need by 2030 and by 2050 to support the numbers of the vehicles that I showed before, and what kind of investment are we talking about in this sense. Then we understood where would we need this with charging infrastructure, whether it be residential, the charging infrastructure at the workplace, in the parking spaces, or the quick charging distributed in different areas of the city. And you could see that in most of the scenarios, the residential charging remains to be very important to be developed together with workplace infrastructure. Then we try to understand in the first rollout, or at least in the next 5 years, what would be the main locations for the placement of such an infrastructure when we're talking about public infrastructure. So when we talk about residential, of course, it is important. I don't know why it's jumping itself. Anyhow, residential infrastructure is important, but it will be developed based on market demand, and to a certain extent, public administrations can support it in a very limited way, this development, mostly through the incentives, mostly through the regulatory mechanisms. However, the publicly available infrastructure is something that the cities can do. And we tried to develop this multi-criteria decision-making tool together with many important stakeholders of the city in order to understand what would be what they consider to be important in terms of places, in terms of type of infrastructure for the city to place the first rollout of the charging infrastructure. And here you see we consider different criteria, cultural, recreational, and touristic poles, as this also supports the findings that the electric vehicle drivers behave differently in terms of charging in comparison to the conventional vehicle drivers. And the duration of the charging is on average longer. Therefore, we need to think about very carefully what would be the most appropriate places to be for these locations to be efficiently used in the first rollout of the electric vehicle charging infrastructure. And then we talked about parking, commercial poles like supermarkets, for example, energy infrastructure, mobility and transport infrastructures, public and civic poles, and overall how the population density of the city should be distributed and whether the infrastructure should be influenced also by this criteria. And then we did a very detailed subdivision of each of those criteria, such as you see here, criteria for the parking lots and the types of parking that are present in the city. The same was done for cultural, recreational, and touristic poles, where we considered hotels, green areas, parks, sport infrastructure, cinemas, theaters, museums, for example, among others. And the same subdivision was done also for the commercial poles. All this information was available also in terms of the GIS layers that we had in the process of multi-criteria decision making with stakeholders, combined and produced a map where you could see the most hotspots, let's say, for the infrastructure development in the first rollout, and then further on, if the city is planning to develop other types of infrastructure in 5-10 years, then other hotspots on the most appropriate places for the electric vehicle infrastructure to be placed. And this information also was used for then developing the master plan for electric vehicle infrastructure that Malix will be presenting later on. We're talking about here about the public charging infrastructure for passenger vehicles. What was also important to understand what would be the life cycle, so the CO2 emission impacts in terms of charging infrastructure, in terms of electric vehicles in general, and in particular for the infrastructure and vehicles in the cities of Italy. And here the life cycle assessment for the public transport has been performed, using also the city of Trento data and other data which is coming from the real-time monitoring of the electric buses and hydrogen vehicles in the city of Bolzano. That's basically so far was the only city that was running on a regular basis in urban environment such buses, so that it could be also transferred for the experiences of the Trento city. And here we could see that the overall life cycle assessment is very positive for electric vehicles overall. In order to then support the large-scale introduction of electric vehicles and the infrastructure, what is important that the electric grid supports this load, and to understand where this load could occur or will occur. Again, in this case for Trento City, a very detailed analysis of the current grid has been performed, where the outcome was that if we use this fit and forget approach that has been applied to now to sizing network elements, the Trento medium voltage distribution grid is sufficiently oversized. So in case that the electric vehicle fleets would will be up to 25-30% of the total car fleet, then there will be no problem for the electric vehicle for electricity grid to accommodate such a load. However, if we increase it as to 50% or higher, then there will be some supporting measures needed. And here the analysis was done by these supporting measures such as V2G smart charging, and it was shown that it can significantly alleviate the stress on the secondary substation transformers, especially if many electric vehicles are connected simultaneously at domestic charging points. And another solution was analyzed, such as decentralized stationary storage systems. They were shown to be effective as well at reduction the overloading events, both in magnitude and amplitude. The next points that were considered, of course, what are the new sectors, new actors, services that are now on the market for the electric vehicle charging infrastructure development, and what would be the most optimal management model for the city to be developed. There, the approach was to analyze the best case scenarios at a European level and see how the cities and regions managed this type of approach in the early phases of the rollout of the infrastructure. And the analysis was done for the Vorarlberg area in Austria and for the Ticino area, which is very nearby Italy, in Switzerland, for example, in Belgium, in general, the Netherlands, the early approach that they were taken for the very high number public charging points development in the very beginning. And then Alex will explain what actually was the choice taken by the city of Trento to develop this first charging network infrastructure at the city level. In order to then support both the electric vehicle fleet increase, but also further development of the charging infrastructure at the city level, that will be beyond the actual city, let's say, tender approach. It was important also to understand what kind of monetary or non-monetary incentives can be introduced in order to support this transition. And in general, cities do not, at least medium and small cities in Italy, don't have a lot of budget in order to do the monetary incentive approach. So what is most developed at this point in Italy is so-called non-monetary incentives. There are several approaches that are done, including the city of Trento, these green public procurement schemes, incentives on purchase differentiated by sectors, that is mostly done at the regional level. The building design requirements in order to support residential charging infrastructure development, information strategies that can be cost-effective interventions for promotion electric vehicle adoption, and has been shown also by the case study at the area of the South Tyrol neighboring Trentino area. Effective awareness campaigns, roadshows, and test drives that can be organized by the city themselves. Several non-monetary incentives that I called Norwegian style. So basically, the exempt for the highway usage for the owners of electric vehicle drivers, and that has been introduced at the Trentino region level and has seen a very high success in the usage of this incentive. And then licensing design. Further, in order, first we do roll out the infrastructure. However, we have to take care of how it is used, whether it is actually used, and how we can improve further planning for the infrastructure based on the monitoring results, and how we can adjust the planning further on based on the usage of the infrastructure. In this case, we have analyzed the usage of the overall Trentino South Tyrol region infrastructure that has been developed so far, as the city of Trento infrastructure has not yet been installed. And we saw that it is important to establish the indicators for the infrastructure use from the point of the public administration that is tendering the infrastructure, the establishment of the dashboard in terms of real-time data analysis per type of infrastructure installed. And then based off this information, then it is important to perform a regular update of the infrastructure planning based on the electric vehicle penetration rate. Here on the graphs, you could also see how the occupancy rate per day of the week is distributed based on the type of the alternative current and direct current infrastructure installed in the area. Finally, the Stardust project has not been finished yet, as it was mentioned, and we continue to work towards the electrification of the fleets in Trento. And in this case, we will concentrate on the simulation of how the full electrification of all the public fleet in the Trento city would look like, what kind of buses, what kind of infrastructure would be needed based on the models that we at EUROC have been developing so far, and it will be applied also for the city of Trento, and the results will be available in March next year. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Aljona. Thanks very much for that presentation. A reminder, we'll have questions and answers at the end, but you can use the chat and already send in any questions that you have following that presentation, and then we'll deal with them right at the end of Alex's presentation. Thank you. So we'll go on now to Alex. I'm just going to make you the presenter. Okay, you should be the presenter now, Alex.
Okay, I think that you see all my screen and it's a mess, but okay. Just before starting, just to connect with that Alona said, I will show you just the idea about the installation of the charging station. Yeah, it's very difficult to read because it's a very huge map, because we choose, based also on the analysis of EUROC, to put the charging station mostly on what they suggested, but also in some of the districts around the city of Trento. So it is this one, it's Meano, Gardolo, Mattarello, that are on the north of the city, very north, and in the very south. Also, the idea is to have this kind of charging station in places where there is the possibility to leave the car there and then take the public transport for the incentivization of the modal split. So leave the your car in the parking slot for free, or just paying a very small fee, and then take the bus to go inside the city center. So this is something, it's very it's not very so readable, But just to understand this part here, where there are all these numbers, is mostly is the city center. So here you see a lot of parking charging station, but also outside. So for example, the number 1 is the biggest parking slot that we have outside. We can see the city center, and we decided to put there some chargers. And the work, the implementation works will start from the 1st of January 2024. And the installation works is foreseen for 6 months from the 1st of January, but probably some of them are ready before this deadline, because they just have to install the charging station. Instead, for other part, we need to install other electric, we can say, cabin to install. So it needs more time to install these kind of things, and also ask the permission to the municipality. So this one is just to finish, we can say, the explanation of what Alona shown before. Now I will explain just the part related to, just a second, and I try to hide these things here, maybe, I don't know, about the my part. So the electric mobility in Trento, so the corporate electric vehicle fleet, and next the pilot introduction of the electric buses in the city. So it's, we can say, two different topics. So I start for the first one with the corporate electric fleet, and then I go to the pilot introduction of the buses in the city. So just to understand a bit the content, we as municipality, we have a lot of public, we can say, the public fleet car that we use for going around the city. And in 2020, thanks to also to the implementation of the Stardust project, we substitute the 10 Fiat Panda that you show, that is visible on the slideshow, with 10 Nissan Leaf. These cars are very the Panda, we can say the Fiat Panda, have Euro 2 emission, and so we switch it to 0 emission. So we reduce the usage of fuel, because Panda was with fuel, and then e-car is with electric version, we can say. Then in 2020, when we bought the e-car, there are also in Italian it's called eco incentivo, so a possibility to have a discount to buy an electric car instead of by replacing something very old, Euro 2, Euro 1 and Euro 0. Another very important point to highlight is that the municipality of Trento have contracts that are 100% made by renewable energy. So we are not using energy that is made by gas or carbon or whatever other sources of production of energy. We use the energy that we produce with the solar panel that we have around the different part of the city, and then also we bought from the energy provider, but the certification is 100% renewable, since we have a lot of water places to produce the energy. Where to place? Yeah, it was not so simple to decide where to place these cars, because it's there are different we can say characteristics and parameters that we have to follow. One is that we have to understand where the car can be more used, since we want to not only achieve the KPI of the Stardust project, but also a reduction of the CO2 emissions, since we have the pact signed that we have to respect to reduce the CO2 emission in the next years. Then we need also a place to put the charger, because what we as municipality thought was that we are not use the normal, we can say, the wall box charger, but we install the practically the big chargers, we can say normal chargers. So we need a place to install these kind of things. And moreover, we thought about that some department, we can say, have more preparation, we can say, more adoptance of this new type of cars, we can say. And then we try to spread these 10 cars, as shown in the table, from the local police, the cabinet of the mayor. Here, that is the protocol, and we have the innovation also offices, and the other are spread around the other department of the municipality. So in order to calculate the savings, we have to in some way think about how to collect the data. So we start to collect data firstly by collecting by filling the paper. It's not an innovative and modern way to collect data, but it was something that is mandatory for us, because we need to sign a paper to say that we are going from here to there and why. And this is why we have this kind of form of table. And then this one was made for the first, is ongoing, we can say, because it's mandatory for the administration, so it's in parallel. We have also, fortunately, thanks to the collaboration of URAC, we started we can say an automatic collection of this data by installing this Canage 2 and connected to the OBD port of the Nissan Leaf. These kind of devices collect only information related to the usage of the battery and the recharging phase. So we have this kind of data collection that is privacy, we can say, conserving, because data related to kilometers are collected manually, because we have a restriction on the device that if you want to know which are the kilometers, you need to install a model that traces the position, and this is not allowed due to the privacy and also due to the regulation of that we cannot track the employers. And the data are sent to the data server via a SIM card that is installed in each device. So whenever we start to going around, the device starts to collect the information. Then these data are collected, as said, on the server. And also here, thanks to the URAC support, we developed two different data visualizations. So one is the monthly consumption for each car. So this one is an example of one of them. So we have information related to the energy consumption, the energy consumption for the recharges, the number of recharging events during the months, and then on the bottom you see how to the state of the charge for each car. So this one is one of the two data visualization. The second one is this one, so the general overview. That is the collection of all the one place. So we have the 10 vehicles, as I said. We have the energy consumption, the total energy consumption, that is 5.32 megawatt hour, and then the energy consumption for the recharger, and then all the other stuff. Around just an estimation, because we need to collect the other from other cars. We use the cars for 100,000 kilometers, the e-cars. So it is very good point, and we can do best, but it's a very good starting and evaluation point. Then we have the using e-cars is not simple, we can say, for the first time. I tried the same experience because I never tried to pick up a car, electric car, and also an automatic car. So we can say the perfect combo is that during the first period, the e-cars were not used in the administration due to a non-confidence on how to drive the automatic transmission car. Plus, it's an electric car, so it's like a combo, the perfect combo for not driving. And for doing that, try to not to encourage to use the car. We organized a couple of meetings with some colleagues of the municipality. It was during the COVID, so it was done online. And we tried to explain the main actions and the tricks that the car have in order to be more confident on the usage. And then we thought to prepare some frequently asked question, because we have a lot of phone calls for how to switch on and switch off the car, how to charge the car, and how to connect the recharging station. Because for now that we are more familiar, it's easy, but maybe for the first user is not so easy. So the idea is to prepare this kind of video, and also because there are other people that use this car, because during the monitoring phase we discovered that some departments are not use very well the car, so we put it in another place. So we need to, we can say, instruct the new employer to use the car, the electric car. And this is for the training and the e-cars. Now switch completely the topic, and we go through the pilot introduction of the electric buses in the city of Trento. So how is called the BRT, the bus rapid transit, is that for the municipality of Trento is for the connection of Zambana, La Vis, and Trento city center. Zambana, La Vis are put it on the north of the city. There are two different, is not in the municipality of Trento, we can say, administration, but are two different towns, two different administration, but the urban public transport goes until Zambana and until La Vis with already just one bus line, and with a train that is called Ferrovia Trento Malè, that it goes around on the north in the valley, but it stops also in La Vis and Zambana. So the big problem is that the north part of Trento, due to the high numbers of cars coming to Trento for work and study, we have a lot of problems related to traffic jam and car accidents. So it's normal that in the morning and during the evening, when there is the traffic goes back and forth from the city, we have this problem of traffic jam, sometimes very full, and other days not, but also changing dependently on the weather. And moreover, in the next years, Trento will be affected by a new, we can say, a new very huge work, that is the Trento railway bypass, that will affect the change of the mobility. So on the bottom of the screen, you see something that is the north part of Trento, and the highlighted zone are the ones that are interested by the works. So Via Brennero is in the middle of this this photo. So in order to do the works, we have to close, deviate, more maybe, who knows, depending on the works, we need to, we can say, adopt different strategies. In addition, near Via Brennero, there is also the railway Trento Malè, that the one that I said before, that connects Trento to the towns of the Adige Valley, and also to Val di Non, Val di Sole, that is for the touristic part, and will be stopped from Trento to Lavis during the works of the bypass. So in the 2024 we start the works, the strong works for the bypass railway, and then we need to close this part of railway to work down and work for the railway, the new railway bypass. So the idea is this one. Why BRT in Trento? For this reason. Which are the objectives of the BRT project? Is to offer a public transport that is rapid, attracting, and efficient. But how can be this one can be or this objective can be, we can say, achieved by we decide to use the BRT project to track that the buses will be on a dedicated road, and as much as possible in order to we can say put a prioritization on the public transport. Then also just on that we have this new BRT, we create new bus stops, and we remove the barrier and refurbishing the existing bus stops in order to guarantee the accessibility of the service. Third is the activation of new mobility joint point, we can say, for achieving the target of modal integration, the one that I said at the beginning, and the interconnection between private and public transport. So we try to create some mobility joint implementation inside the urban sustainable mobility plan that was approved during this year. For doing that, we decide to use the BRT. BRT is a project in which the province of Trento received around 8 million euro funded by the PNRR, the Resilience Plan for the EU. And with these 8 million, province of Trento will buy 6 e-buses that is 12 meters long, and 3 other e-buses that is 18 meters, so the biggest one, and also covering the costing of infrastructure, because we have to install also the charging point where these buses will be charged during the service. So just to very briefly explain, there are 2 lines. One is the bus line 17 that is ongoing already with normal buses. Then we decided, in collaboration with Trentino Trasporti and the province of Trento, to substitute these buses with the 3 e-buses of 12 meters with and the time scheduling is every 30 minutes you have a bus that's going back and forth from the city center of Trento, that is Piazza Dante, on the below on the under the draw that is on the slide, and the new line that is the bus line 18, called 18. There are the other 3 buses, depending of the length is just to we have to elaborate a more deeper analysis. And we have this new line that is more or less similar to the other one, but it's not passing to the city center of Lavis, but goes on the straight away to Lavis without stops in the city, in the town of Lavis. So also this one is 30 minutes time scheduling. Summing the 2 lines, so the 17 plus the 18, you have a bus every 15 minutes, and during the rush hour you have 10 minutes. The idea is to put the charging point of the line to the bus stop in Lavis that is called Piazzale Stolcis, where there is the railway stop of Trento Malè. That is the biggest place where we can put every part of the electric charging that we need. Yeah, this is very brief explanation, because the project is planned to start in next from March 2024, we can say. in spring, and then we have to work on that. This is the solution that we try to develop for the e-buses. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, sorry for the not so deep explanation, but it's yeah, these are the status in order to just to understand how the solution of e-buses will start to be implemented in Trento when we have more yeah, more data. Is not on inside the Stardust because we finished the project in March, but as if you follow the social media and the social pages and newspaper, you will see the upgrade and the upcoming events for the buses. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Alex, for that presentation. I can certainly relate to the situation of people who drive an electric vehicle for the first time. I can certainly identify with that. It is a bit strange. I have a manual diesel, but occasionally I have to drive electric vehicles, and it's completely different. So I can certainly relate to that. Yeah, we've got a few questions that have come up. I think perhaps if we could stay with you, Alex, for now. We've got one. I think this probably relates to your slide 5, possibly, from Dan Moldavanu. How did you decode the information from the CAN, the CAN, or was it directly provided? Information like SOC.
Yeah, the information that are collected from the OBDD, you can say, box is sent to EURAC that does do the job of interpret. You can say translate what has been sent to the OBDD. We have some. It's an XML, if I remember correct, that has contains all the information that we need to interpret, to translate to a data that can be inserted in the database, if it is right, Alona, because it's a part
Yeah,
that is
I can add the question is very relevant because it's very difficult to get the information from the OBD on the certain parameters. So we used the publicly available coding on the Canergy website in order to decode the energy consumption indicators, as we don't have a GPS data and other indicators, but only a very limited number, but through the codes that are openly available on the Canergy site.
And there's sort of a follow-up question to that, still by Dan. He's saying, will you monitor the buses in the same way with the same CAN device?
I think no, because it's something that since it's bought by the province of Trento, we can say as municipality we are the a part involved in the project, but the main core activity is done by province of Trento and Trentino Trasporti, that is the public agency that manages the public transport in Trentino. So they have we can say they have another system of collecting information, and then yeah, probably we need to also try to discuss with them on how to collect the data.
Also, I would add to that is that a certain indicator performance and the monitoring performances of the buses have been inserted as a requirement in the tendering procedure. So the bus manufacturers that won the tender will be in a way obliged to provide this information through their own monitoring devices. However, in our experience with other electric buses and bus manufacturers, they're very jealous of their data, and therefore it might be possible that we will use the same type of devices in order to extract the data from the electric buses once they arrive.
Okay, thank you. If we could stay with the buses, because Dan has another question about the buses. He's asking about the range of the 12-meter buses and the 18-meter buses, and what is the capacity for charging stations in terms of the speed, and slow, fast? Can you give some details about that?
From my side, I don't have any description because it's yeah, it's not my, we can say, main focus. So I try to I need to find this data if needed. I then to ask to my colleagues on the mobility department, maybe.
And another question that's come up, how do you reply to citizens that have concerns about e-batteries and safety issues around these batteries?
Concerns it's something that is, we can say, something that has been not arised until now. Maybe because in Trento we have in the last years I see a lot of electric cars coming around the city. So I think that for the people that are a bit more afraid about the batteries and how also the problem of since I am a volunteer firefighter, I have the same problem that what happened when a car starts to burn. It's a problem, but we have the solution to how to prevent, also because batteries are secure, because they passes a lot of tests, and yeah, it happens that sometimes some batteries start burning, but it's one on a million of cases, and they can be, it happens also, it happens with the phones, is the same thing. So it happened that the same battery, we can say in a very small size, happen also on the mobile phone, on the PC, on the whatever, on the tablet, on every devices, has the same problem of start burning maybe, but hopefully it doesn't happen now. So in this kind of we can say in this kind of problem of that people are afraid, I honestly haven't received any issues.
Yeah.
Oh, I can also confirm that at least in this area, that the concerns regarding this particular aspect of the electric vehicle battery safety is not so pronounced. There are other concerns regarding the overall electricity network, whether it comes from green electricity or it comes from the conventional resource sources, but not regarding the safety issues.
Yeah, big issues that, as Alona also said, it's the fact that if we have all cars that is electric vehicles, can our system, electric system, support and doesn't fall if we have all the cars electrics? This is something more that we have to analyze, and we analyze also during the project with the studies of Alona and all the other stuff of the EURAC part. This is very important. It's not, we can say that is primarily important how to not that the electric system, public electric system, can support the number of e-cars that in the future will be introduced also, because now the fact that in the 2035, 2030, 2035, every car can be electric, we need to understand how to manage this new call and asking of energy, peak of energy. This is this is the most important part from what I'm understood during the Stardust project and the analysis of Alona and EURAC.
Yeah, what you're saying there is actually related to a question that's in the question list here. It's what is the biggest problem in the fast rollout of EV infrastructure at the city level? So obviously the infrastructure has to follow the growth of these electric vehicles. And so what would be the sort of main issues in actually rolling out the infrastructure that is required for that?
One is the one that we highlighted also during the analysis that has been done, is that when there is the outside, we can say outside the city center, you can put the high charge stations, since also the 200 kilowatt hour stations, because we can have and we can implement, we can say, a new electronic and electric lines dedicated to them. In the city center is difficult because we have to, we can say, since the cable are down the road, we have to, we can say, extend the dimension of the cables and try to not to, as I said before, that this blackout, since 20 people start connecting the car at the same time, and then you black out all the city. This is something that, and this is why we as municipality we decide to not put the very high charge in the city center. The very high charge has been, there are on the highway Autobrennero, there are on the parking area and the bars on the highway Brennero, not in the city center of Trento, since you need a huge cable and huge capability of the cable to have this kind of we can say high voltage tensions.
I would add that I think one of the biggest problems, at least in Italy now, with the new national procurement rules, is actually the bureaucracy, and that's what we have experienced within actually indirectly with Stardust, because the problem is that if you issue the tender and then you look for the bidders, and then you have to sign the contract, and then the other bidders are not happy, then you have to restart again, and therefore the whole process so far that we have experienced in Stardust has been now for 2 years that we are not able to install the charging infrastructure. This is due to the very difficult bureaucratic process, and I think this
also because we have
has to be somehow simplified. Otherwise, cities really will face, they will fall behind with the infrastructure if they have to provide the public infrastructure themselves and not the companies that operate on the territory.
Also because in the, as Alona said, in our process of installation, we have also some claims about the people, the companies that not was the winner, and then the process takes other, we can say, entropy, and then more entropy plus more entropy, more, and then we, from 1 year is 3 years that we are here waiting, and Alona is happy to know that from the 1st of January we start the works. Was a planned 2 years and a half ago. So it's, this one is another main, we can say, bureaucracy plus the capability of the electric network.
I think what you're saying there also relates to a question that's in the list here. How can businesses support public administrations in the effective e-mobility strategy development in a city? Because you were saying, Aljona, about the bidders or whatever. Okay, they're in the bidding thing, but before any tender process is issued, there's a strategy in place, okay, of which that tender process is a part. But perhaps up front, what sort of input can the business community provide in the actual strategy? And what's the relationship with the business community there?
I don't know, Alona, if you have some hints, because from the administration point of view, we receive, my colleagues of the mobility office receive a lot of proposal of installing new charging station, new charging places, new charging, because in Trento we have also a lot of bikes, e-bikes. We don't have a bike charger in Trento. We can see a bike charging station that is not the public ones. Maybe this one is something that with the administration we have to think, but sometimes happen that we can say the commercial party, we can say, coming and propose something, but then we start the bureaucracy, and then yeah, if you have an idea now, maybe next year or the next 2 years you have the solution implemented.
Yeah, I think I can add to that is that there is a very important electric mobility association in Italy, and they are working there both with public administrations and with businesses on the other side. And what businesses, I think, can do is to provide very clear guidelines of what's possible and what's not possible at this technological stage of the technological development, and what should be the requirements if the municipality decides to, or the region decides to, tender out the installation of the charging stations. What should be the requirements of the efficient and technologically possible infrastructure? So basically to set some kind of baseline or benchmark that, let's say, not everyone who wants to develop a charging infrastructure, public charging infrastructure, it has to really be all accessible, interoperable, and all other criteria that we know. And then in this case, this is what businesses can do. They can provide the clear setup and guideline and benchmarks of how the technological advancements can look like and what would be the requirements. For example, very easily, that the charging point has to be connected within the first to the electricity grid, I mean, within the first 10 days after the installation, for example, as we experience in Italy very often, that there is a charging point, but it's not connected. So the bidders, they win the places that are tendered by the cities. They install the infrastructure, but they don't connect it, because at this point it's not very important for them as a location. And then, of course, the users suffer a lot from this kind of infrastructure, or it's not possible to dial the live support or call number that is indicated, and so on. So there must be an accordance between the public administrations and the businesses on what would be the minimum benchmark for an efficient and very well developed infrastructure. And then municipalities can decide which places they want it and which places they don't, but at least the benchmark should be there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, interesting point there. Okay, I think we can wrap up now. So thanks for the questions, and thank you to you both for coming in today to give your presentations. Just a reminder to everybody that the webinar series will continue from around mid-January, so there will be other webinars continuing, and so we'll advertise that in the next few days on the social media, and on the website there will be some information about that. So keep monitoring our communication channels. And yeah, thank you very much. And well, we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, and thanks to
Mark,
everybody who's joined us
for the presentation.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.